Could China's history been different if one fire attack had failed? Well, Red Cliff is the moment China split into three, changing its history forever. But what if history had another story in mind? One that would have seen China unified under the rule of Cao Cao. Here are three things that could have changed everything and made Cao Cao the ruler of a united China and not the loser at Red Cliff. The entire southern strategy at Red Cliff rested on one element: wind. Zhou Yu, commander of the Eastern Wu forces, and his ally Huang Gai devised a desperate but brilliant plan to send ships packed with oil and kindling straight into Cao Cao's fleet and set it ablaze. But there was a problem. The wind usually blew northwest from Cao Cao's side of the river toward the south. If they launched fire ships into that wind, they would be burning their own fleet. So they waited. And then, in a rare stroke of luck or fate, the wind shifted. A sudden southeast wind began to blow straight toward Cao Cao's anchored navy. The one twist of nature made the fire attack possible. It turned the Yangtze River into a death trap. But what if it hadn't changed? What if the wind stayed in Cao Cao's favor? The fire ships would never have reached their target. At best, they would drift harmlessly. At worst, they would be swept back into Zhou Yu's own lines. And with no flames, there wouldn't have been no chaos and no sudden collapse of morale. And Red Cliff, instead of becoming a turning point in China's history, it might have been nothing more than a failed southern ambush, a footnote to Cao Cao's rise. By the time of Red Cliff, Liu Bei wasn't a mighty warlord. He was more of a survivor. Weeks earlier, at the Battle of Changban, his army was in ruins. He was retreating south with a ragtag force of civilians, his family in tow, and Cao Cao's elite cavalry closing in fast. Legend tells us that during that chaos, his general Zhao Yun fought through hundreds of enemies to rescue Liu Bei's infant son and protect his wife. That moment saved the Liu clan. But imagine if Zhao Yun failed, if Liu Bei had been captured or killed during that retreat. There would have been no alliance with Sun Quan, no strategist named Zhuge Liang rising to shape an empire, and no future kingdom of Shu. Cao Cao would have crushed not just one army, but an entire dynastic claim to legitimacy. And without Liu Bei, there's no one left to challenge Cao Cao's political narrative of restoring order. One man's escape kept history alive. Take that away, and Red Cliff becomes just another rebel defeat. Cao Cao was a brilliant commander, but he wasn't perfect. His greatest flaw? Overconfidence. As he marched south, several of his own officers warned him. His troops were mostly northern cavalry, untrained for river warfare. They weren't used to the humid, disease-ridden southern climate. And worst of all, he chained his ships together, thinking it would keep his fleet stable and prevent seasickness. It did, but it also turned his navy into a floating fire trap. So what if Cao Cao had listened? He had brilliant commanders like Cao Mao and Zhang Yun, who understood naval combat. If he had let them lead, kept his ships separate and moved more slowly with proper supplies, he could have avoided disaster entirely. Even without the fire attack, his army was massive. And with smarter preparation, he might have crushed the alliance with pure force and strategy. But instead, pride silenced caution, and the greatest warlord in China burned for it. Redcliffe wasn't destiny. It was a combination of chance, strategy, pride, and a little wind. And if the events had not occurred as they did, then China's future would have been much different. Let me know in the comments, how different do you think history would have been if Cao Cao had won?